SummerSlam 2022 is in the books and it was goddamn fantastic. I'll say that right at the top. Coming live from Nashville, Tennessee in front of a reported 48,000 fans at the Nissan Stadium. It was an outdoor show which I absolutely loved to see, by the way, and the crowd were white hot. This was the first WWE premium live event without Vince McMahon at the helm, with Triple H in control of the creative. Now let's get into this review of SummerSlam 2022. The show opened with Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. Belair was in her home state and that massive crowd made themselves heard in support of her. Last year at SummerSlam 2021, Becky Lynch scored a win against Belair in controversial fashion after defeating her in just 27 seconds, but that wasn't to be the story this year. This was a really good opener with Belair finishing Lynch after she kicked out of Lynch's manhandle slam and hit her with the kiss of death for the win after 15 minutes and 10 seconds. Lynch offered Belair the handshake after the match and then they hugged. Might we be seeing a face turn from Becky in the near future? Then Bayley returned after spending over a year out of action, with Dakota Kai returning to WWE alongside her, and then Io Shirai entered as well. The three women trash talked Belair with Bayley getting in Belair's face. It was great to see Bayley back, and Shirai was an unexpected re-signing after being released earlier in the year. Her new name is Io Sky according to the on-screen graphic. Next, The Miz with Maurice and Ciampa entered to face Logan Paul. The Miz is so good as a heel. He's like a walking irritant now more than ever, and I absolutely love that. Maurice is incredible too. She plays the bitch really nicely. Ciampa being paired with The Miz seemed like an odd choice at first, but having him follow The Miz around like an angry little meathead kind of makes sense when you see it in action. I have to admit, when they announced that Logan Paul was coming to WWE, I was sceptical to say the least. He really proved his chops in that tag team match at WrestleMania, but here in a singles match those doubts started to creep in for me as to whether he was going to be able to hold his own in a singles match, and I kind of expected this to be a train wreck. I should not have worried. The man is a natural. I'm so impressed with how he's taken to wrestling, all things considered. I also assumed he'd be a natural heel, but I actually find him to be a very likeable babyface. The frog splash spot from the top rope through the table was beautifully executed and Paul pinned The Miz clean. 1, 2, 3. The crowd really showed their support for Paul during and after the match. I can really see him totally getting over as a babyface, something I would not have necessarily predicted beforehand. A promo aired with Maximum Male Models promoting Pure Life Water. I know a lot of you guys find this team to be trash, but I really enjoy my sports entertainment with added cheese, so I'm really digging these guys. Next up, Money in the Bank contract holder Theory challenged Bobby Lashley for his United States Championship. Bobby Lashley looks every inch a megastar. His entrance was goosebump-inducingly cool, and he oozes charisma. I remember his first run being something of a dud back in the mid-2000s, but it's like he's a different man now during this run. Don't get me wrong, the crowd were very hot in Nashville generally for everything, but they certainly seem to have a lot of love for Lashley too. Despite Theory attacking with the briefcase before the match, Lashley got the majority of the offense here and dominated in a short match that lasted less than 5 minutes. Lashley essentially dismantled the young upstart before making him tap with the Hurt Lock. One has to wonder, with Vince out the door, whether Theory's push is going to come to a grinding halt. It might be the case that Triple H doesn't see as much in the young superstar as his father-in-law did. Next, Rey and Dominic Mysterio faced the Judgment Day members Finn Balor and Damian Priest in a no DQ match. This was a fun 11-minute match which saw both teams go back and forth. But the real news here was Edge's return with a spine-tingling entrance before interfering in the contest and spearing both Balor and Priest. Now we immediately realised why the match was no DQ. This was retaliation from Edge for the Judgment Day turning on him in violent fashion a month ago. Edge's interference allowed for a double 619 followed by a splash from Rey on Balor for the win. The despicable Happy Corbin made his way to the ring for his grudge match against Pat McAfee next. He was accompanied by a choir singing him to the ring. The choir was singing Bum-Ass Corbin, a phrase coined by McAfee to describe Corbin in the run-up to the match. Corbin was understandably pissed by the jape, but luckily It wouldn't be long before McAfee's music started to play. This was a decent 10-minute match between these former football teammates. A couple of sloppy spots, but still not too bad at all. Unsurprisingly, McAfee won the match after hitting a diving code red from the second rope, leading to the 3 count. A standout moment here actually took place on commentary when Corey Graves told Michael Cole, "I liked you better when you weren't allowed to have an opinion." Cole shot back, "That's changed, a lot's changed." The undisputed tag team champions and bloodline members, the Usos, faced the Street Profits next with the belts on the line. This was one of those matches we all knew was going to be 5-star as soon as it was announced. These guys have so much chemistry together. In just over 13 minutes, these 4 men put on a fine match. Perhaps not quite as good as their match at Money in the Bank, but that's not taking anything away from this one. The Usos finished Dawkins to retain the belts once again. Riddle was meant to face Seth Rollins on the show, however WWE announced that Riddle was injured last week and therefore the match was shelved, probably until the Clash at the Castle premium live event in a couple of months' time. The injury is fictional, by the way. It was a booking decision that was made. Riddle came to the ring and cut a promo. The fans were well into him. He was very over. Rollins appeared and the two brawled while officials tried to stop it, with Rollins hitting the stomp on Riddle, leaving him laying to finish the segment. WWE SmackDown Women's Champion Liv Morgan faced Ronda Rousey next. This was the weakest match on the card, but it was kept brief. Don't get me wrong, I really like Morgan, but I don't know if she should be champion necessarily, and I predicted that she would lose here to Rousey. Rousey dominated the match, but she lost on a technicality. Rousey applied an armbar to Morgan, but Rousey's shoulders were down on the mat. The referee counted the 3 before Morgan tapped out after 4 minutes and 34 seconds, and therefore Morgan retained the championship. Nobody came out of this looking particularly strong. However, it really wouldn't have been believable for Morgan to get any offense in against Rousey. As I said earlier, I'm not sure if she makes for the best women's champion necessarily. After the match, Rousey attacked Morgan again and then took out the referee. Now it was main event time as champion Roman Reigns faced Brock Lesnar for the belts in a last man standing match. After the amount of times I've seen these two face each other, I wasn't really expecting much, but goddamn were my expectations exceeded a dozen times over. This match was fantastic, and if you only watch one thing from this awesome show, then make this it. Reigns told the crowd in Nashville to acknowledge him, and goddamn is Reigns the best heel they've had in years. WWE would do really well to retain him for as long as possible, or, you know, possibly make some new main eventers. I'll probably do the second one actually. Next was the other main eventer WWE currently employ. That was Brock Lesnar. Lesnar immediately set himself apart by driving a tractor to the ring, because why not? He stood on top of the tractor bucket as he introduced himself as a big-ass country boy weighing 285 pounds. It was an incredible visual, and it's one that will be replayed for decades to come, of Lesnar standing on top of that bucket. The pair then proceeded to almost destroy each other in an incredible last man standing match. Lesnar got his licks in early, sending Reigns to the outside and dominating early on in the contest. Heyman distracted Lesnar for long enough for Reigns to hit a Samoan drop through a table. Lesnar hit Reigns with a German suplex while fans chanted, "This is awesome." Later, in an incredible moment, Lesnar backed the tractor up and lifted the corner of the ring up entirely, so that Reigns went tumbling back out of the ring. It was such an awesome visual. Lesnar did us all a favour and put Heyman through a table. Then Theory's music played and ran down with his Money in the Bank briefcase. Before he could cash in, Lesnar hit him with an F5 on top of the briefcase. The Usos hit Lesnar with a double super kick, and Reigns smashed Lesnar with the WWE title belt, but Lesnar just would not stay down. Finally, Reigns hit Lesnar with the Universal title, and he and the Usos buried Lesnar under parts of the table and the steel steps before standing on top, finally keeping Lesnar down for the 10 count in 23 minutes and 1 second. This show was almost perfect from top to bottom for me. If you're yet to watch SummerSlam 2022, then it is well worth firing up your Peacock or your WWE Network and spending 3 hours and 40 minutes with this one. I'm off to watch some of it again right now.